When Sasha Banks returned to WWE TV after SummerSlam 2019, everybody went crazy. She beat up Natalya with her brand new hair and chants feared her like she was the best thing they'd ever seen. Do you know what Banks did to get this reaction too? She went away. That was it. Taking a 4-month break after WrestleMania 35 for who knows what reason, by the time August had rolled around, no one was thinking about the controversy in April and were just pleased to see her. That is absence making the heart grow fonder. It's a huge advert for some kind of off-season for wrestlers, which doubles when you look at what else performers are doing to try and get in the audience's good books. Whereas Sasha just turned up, others are putting themselves through hell just to get some love when their music hits. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 wrestlers who had to destroy themselves to get over. Number 10, Bray Wyatt. We'll start with one that kind of plays with the title, because to get Bray Wyatt over, he had to destroy his own character just to get the fans to like him again. And let's face it, who else would be messing around with a narrative like this? It just seems to be what the Eater of Worlds does. You all know the tale too. The original persona was great for a period before WWE booked it into the ground, and Bray never backed up a word he said. Soon after that, we couldn't even understand what was coming out of his mouth, and there was only one thing for it: he had to be redone. And yowie wowie, did they get that right. Quite literally making this clear by carrying a lantern of his own severed head, Wyatt has now become part kid TV presenter and part serial killer, and it worked wonders. He has a genuinely terrifying aura to him, and every time the lights start to dim on WWE TV, we all get just a little bit excited. Wyatt is one of the most creative wrestlers there is right now, and it's wonderful that WWE is letting him run with it. He did have to destroy his old self to do this, but even he made that part of the story. What a smart old bean. Number 9, Spike Dudley. Spike Dudley was not your average pro wrestler, something that was doubly true in the 90s. Physiques were everything in those days, and while that wasn't entirely the case in ECW, Spike still looked tiny compared to everybody on the roster. Thankfully, he was being booked by Paul Heyman though, a man who lived and died by the mantra push the positives and hide the weaknesses. Help no end. That manifested itself in the sense that Dudley didn't care about having his ass kicked and could make it look damn good. It ensured fans had a lot of sympathy for the babyface as he got hurled through tables and sometimes even into the crowd. It wasn't like Spike wasn't capable of having a good match either. He smashed it at Guilty as Charged in 2000, and every time you saw him against a bigger opponent, you knew something crazy was about to go down. That was also a crazy, enjoyable experience though, hence why Spike Dudley was able to get to the top of the mountain. How he walks around today, I'll never know. Maybe that's just the magic of the industry. Number 8, Kenta Kobashi. One of the best wrestlers of all time, Kenta Kobashi would still paint himself as the ultimate good guy by getting beat up something fierce and yet always finding a way to battle back. Way before John Cena was saying never give up, Kenta was the living embodiment of that statement. It really didn't matter either. Broken bones, bruised organs, a neck that was hanging by a thread, nothing would stop him, and as such fans would roar for the man who refused to quit. Even when he lost it was because of this. He had tried so hard he just passed out unconscious in the middle of the ring. Kobashi had given everything. This was all part of the plan too. Kenta lost his first 63 singles matches despite showing more and more skill each and every time. He was shifted to the main event in 1993 in an absolute war with Steve Williams, and even there he just got dropped on his head over and over again. It was unrelenting. When Kobashi retired, it was clear that he had left his mark, but at what cost was the question. He was not the same as the person that first stepped in a wrestling ring, and he did all of this by allowing him to have his ass whipped. Number 7, Hulk Hogan. When you think about it, the reason Hulk Hogan got so over is that he was always on the end of a beating until he hulked up, fought back, and pulled out an incredible victory. He sold for most of his matches like he was on the cusp of death, until his body and brain decided there was no way that was gonna happen. At no point was that more true than his first run in WCW. Brought in as the savior of the company, there was a real disconnect for Hogan in World Championship Wrestling. While TV fans would watch him and buy his pay-per-views, the light crowd saw him as part of the enemy and never accepted him properly. To fight this, WCW decided the best way would be to give Hulk even more obstacles to overcome. This meant he was facing off against multiple wrestlers at once, entire stables that would grow in number, and also being thrown in crazy stipulations that no man could surely survive. Somehow Hogan always did. It was a success because when Eric Bischoff turned him heel in 1996, it surprised people even more and was like someone taking a piece of your childhood and killing it. Think of the irony. Number 6, Seth Rollins. WWE overtried to get Seth Rollins over throughout and after WrestleMania 35. For a while he was Steve Austin with a steel chair, then he was John Cena doing comedy, and for a little while they took that same idea and did it as if he was The Rock. Why Rollins wasn't enough, I will never know. Rumours before SummerSlam suggested WWE were getting desperate to ensure he was cheered like a king, so just went with the idea that he gets the absolute hoo-ha kicked out of him leading up to the pay-per-view, but then somehow comes alive during the match and is able to take down Brock Lesnar. Sounds pretty stupid, but as we saw, that match was so good both parties made it work. How that happened, I will never know, because on the Raw before the hottest event of the summer, no one could see how Seth winning made any sense. Goes to show that you never really know, and credit to WWE for making a ridiculous narrative achieve its goal in the end. I bet Rollins loved getting F5'd onto that chair too. That looked really comfortable. Number 5, Darby Allen. Far more than the stuntman he comes across as, Darby Allen has still made a name for himself by trying to break his body both in and out the wrestling ring. It's likely in AEW part of his story arc will be to show how speedy and technical he also is, but as I say these words, he's more Mick Foley than Daniel Bryan, and let's face it, worked. Often linked to tragic childhood events where a drunken uncle was killed in a car crash, it all comes together to make Allen a very compelling character, especially when he does his now signature coffin drop from the top rope. That's not all he does, and if you watch any of his matches, you'll know how far he's willing to go. It doesn't seem to bother Allen, who has likely heard all of this criticism and carries on regardless. So far so good, mind. In certain circles, he's the talk of the town. Number 4, the Dynamite Kid. In terms of what sports entertainment was in the 80s, or at least where Vince McMahon wanted to take it, the Dynamite Kid was the complete opposite. He clearly knew this too, as he ensured to go the other way and reinvent what wrestling could be. The Wigan Man is still credited as a huge influence on what the modern style is. Because of this, he also made Japan his home, and Dynamite's style was so hard-hitting and intense you totally believed everything he was doing, mostly because he was actually throwing himself around like a crazy person. Go and watch him bump and you'll understand it straight away. He has no regard for the future and wanted people to ooh and ah even after a clothesline. The result of this, however, was Kid actually breaking his back. In his later years, he was confined to a wheelchair due to the sheer agony he had put his body through. Suffering for your art has always been the saying, and you could argue that this was Dynamite's legacy, even though his influence on the industry will be remembered for years. He tragically passed away in 2018, and while always a controversial figure, that didn't take away from what he was able to achieve in the ring. Number 3, Sabu. Another man who was so ahead of his time he likely had a DeLorean hidden in his house. Sabu's greatest skill was that he would try such audacious spots that half the time they wouldn't even go correctly. He'd just end up a crumpled heap on the floor as fans reacted with shock and horror. Sabu didn't care. Breaking tables like he didn't realise they had another purpose, he popularised the shattering of wood around the world, even across in New Japan. If there was something close by he could slam himself through and it looked good, then damn it, that was on his agenda for the evening. You can see the wear and tear this has left on him today, and a large reason for that, like I say, is because sometimes he missed the table and went flying into the concrete instead. Did that ever stop Sabu? Of course not. He was probably just happy it got such a big reaction. There's a reason he had the word suicidal in his nickname. Few other wrestlers have ever done such bonkers things as Sabu, even today. Number 2, Atsushi Onita. Even in 2019, getting over in Japan requires being a master technician. It's not the be-all and end-all, but all the greats have proven time and time again that they are pretty damn good at it. Onita took that idea and threw it out the window. Probably set it on fire first. Often selling out buildings in the East, he did this by coming across like a badass but also treating his body like a car wreck. Want to blow him up and puncture his skin with some barbed wire? No problem. That's just another day in the office. An innovator of death matches and many variations of that idea, Onita beat himself so badly that when he entered a current Blast Royal Rumble in 2017, he had to win because his body wasn't able to take a fall over the top rope. Thank goodness the Iron Sheik wasn't in this too. He's still doing this as well, as in 2019 he competed in more explosion-centric matches. Clearly he doesn't care, and I guess more power to him. I couldn't do it. Bag of thumbtacks scares me. Number 1, Shane McMahon. Whatever you think of Shane O'Mac throughout the years, he has done so many crazy stunts you can't help but shrug your shoulders and go, okay man, fair play. Be it falling from the top of the Titantron, being hurled through glass, jumping off the Hell in a Cell, or even that elbow drop he does through the announce table, he has been destroying himself since 1999 and has made a career out of it. Don't forget he doesn't need to do this either. His dad is the boss. Shane probably has his ear, if only a little. It did get Shane over though, to the point when he does have a match, everybody expects something mad. Forget the fact he's a 50-year-old man. He's done it so many times, it's almost a given. He'll probably just turn it down these days, but let's face it, he won't. Ever, that's not his way. So while yes, in the latter stages of 2019 he is featuring on TV way too much, never forget that when he wanted to, Shane McMahon was an absolute lunatic. Know of any other wrestlers who had to destroy themselves to get over? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from What Culture. I will talk to you again soon.